Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mariam and this is the end of an era. In that tag, I talked about a series that I'm an anti-fan of, like that I don't like that everyone else likes, and I said the Mortal Instruments series. And I feel the same about Cassandra Clare in general. Like, I'm really not interested in like most of what she puts out, but the Infernal Devices, the characters and the plotting and the relationships and the conflict and the drama and the intrigue and the action sequences, it has resulted in one of the best books that I've ever read. I am hurt. I am consumed by the pain that I feel for these characters and the heartbreak that I feel for everyone involved. The mere thought that I'm going to have to wait an entire year to read the next and the final book, to have to wait to see what happens after this, and then for the entire series to just conclude, I am beside myself. Where do we even really begin? So if you have been here for a long time, you probably already know, but if this is your first time here, if this is your first video with me, I have been documenting my journey with Cassandra Clare since I think like the end of 2019. I have kind of just really switched gears on Cassandra Clare because I went from absolutely having no interest in reading any of her books in early 2019 when I had rejoined the book community to kind of being possibly one of her biggest stans. Just saying that, a lot has changed, but like I have to accept who I am. I just can't be mad about it because the Infernal Devices and the Last Hours series have changed me, changed my life, changed my brain chemistry so thoroughly in the last couple of years, and I don't know who I would be without especially the Last Hour series. And in this video, that all comes to an end. This is like a really big moment. So I don't really want to make this intro too long because like this video is already going to be well over an hour. We already know how it goes here, but I just want to talk about like a couple things, like where are our heads at? It is January 17th right now, and Chain of Thorns comes out on January 31st. I'm going on lockdown. I don't think y'all understand. Usually I would like take off of work or something for like a really big book release like this, but I'm actually unemployed right now. I'm in like a little period between jobs. I just finished my internship with the publisher that I was working at last year in December, and it's January now. I'm on a little break, bought a PS5 that I've been playing. I don't have any plans, so I'm going on literal lockdown for Chain of Thorns because this is gonna be big. Like it's gonna be bad. Like it's gonna be bad. My attachment to the series, I have to be home. I have to be in my bed with a box of tissues. I'm just preparing y'all right now. It's gonna be bad. I'm just woefully unprepared in every way that I could possibly be. I have no thoughts in my head. I finished my Chain of Iron reread like last week. I'm just like numb to the ending of that book because the effect that that book had on my brain, it just like turned it off entirely when it comes to thinking about any sort of outcome of this series. I just have no idea what on earth Cassandra Clare is going to do because every time I have a theory, she just goes in the complete opposite direction. By the way, if it wasn't obvious, this video is going to be completely spoilery for Chain of Gold, Chain of Iron, and Chain of Thorns, especially Chain of Thorns. There's going to be all kinds of spoilers. It's going to be spoiler central. So if you have not read these books, if you have not read them and you want to read them, please leave this video. But please come back when you are prepared to watch. After Chain of Gold, I was really not prepared for Cordelia and James to actually get married in Chain of Iron. Like, I just did not think that that was even going to happen. It's not even something that I entertained happening because I was so sure that the entire series was going to be like prolonging the wedding and like it wasn't actually going to happen. I think I was just thinking that Cassandra Clare was doing something that was similar to the Infernal Devices, but that's the thing. A lot about this series is similar foundation wise to the Infernal Devices, but I think that she is going to end up throwing so much in the mix to where, yes, there are parallels, but nothing is going to turn out anything like the Infernal Devices, which scares me, because what is going to happen between James, Cordelia, and Matthew? I mean, James and Cordelia, it's gonna be endgame. Like, no one's questioning that, right? I hope no one's questioning that. I can't tell what exactly is going to happen to Matthew because he is technically the gem in this situation. I have a feeling, so this is like the only solid theory that I actually have. Well, solid, but it's a theory. It's probably the only theory that I actually have because I genuinely don't know what else is going to happen to any of the other characters. But Matthew, because of some theories that have been going on the like Shadowhunter fandom side of the internet, which I am not like super tuned into, so maybe this has already been like discussed widely, I have no idea. But I definitely think that Matthew, something is going to happen to Matthew where he is going to actually become like immortal. Like, he's not going to be a Shadowhunter anymore. I think he's going to become immortal. Please walk with me here. I think he's going to either become a vampire or like get stuck in the fairy realm. There are just things sprinkled within the past few books, and also the fact that like in the Shadowhunter records that Cassandra Clare has written, Matthew does not have like a death date. None of the like family trees or like anything, there's just like no information about when Matthew dies, how Matthew dies, anything like that. And so it's just like my strongest theory, which is not even that strong, that Matthew is going to become either a vampire or a fairy, or he's going to withstand time somehow. And I think he's going to be in the Wicked Powers. It's either going to be him or someone else, but it's definitely going to be him, right? Just because he is kind of the outlier in this entire situation. I mean, we have Cordelia and James, we have Thomas and Alistair, we have Anna and Ariadne. Unfortunately, we have Grace and Christopher. I don't even want to talk about that. We're throwing that out the window. So Matthew is just like really on the outskirts of this entire story, and I think it's going to be really heartbreaking, but I think he is going to somehow live 100 years or something, and I think he's going to have a part in the Wicked Powers. I don't know, but I think that would be really interesting. What other theories do I have? So Thomas and Alistair, unfortunately, I feel like something unfortunate is going to happen between Thomas and Alistair, only because I think we do know that Thomas actually does die young, according to the falsified family tree that we have. But I don't actually know. I don't know what's gonna happen between them, but I feel like something unfortunate is gonna happen between them. Anna and Ariadne, I can see them having a happy ending, honestly. I don't think anything is gonna happen to Anna and Ariadne. I think they kind of have had their angst and their troubles already, both on and off page, and so I think that we're gonna kind of arrive at their happy ending in this last book. Grace and Christopher, I just honestly, I couldn't care less. Grace, don't care what happens to her. I don't care if she lives, I don't care if she dies. I hope James gets his justice. I want to see Grace in jail. I want to see Tatiana dead. Oh yeah, Lucy and Jesse. I'm about to say something controversial. Y'all, I don't care about Lucy and Jesse. I cared about them in Chain of Gold so much, but in Chain of Iron, my love and care for Lucy and Jesse just literally went out the window. I don't know where it went. I think it just disappeared. I hope it comes back, but I don't have faith that it will. So if you're a Lucy, Jesse stan, I'm so sorry. You're not gonna hear a lot of good things in this video about them. I hope they have a happy ending. Okay, sure, but I'm here for James and Cordelia and Matthew, and they are of utmost importance to me. I also care a lot about Thomas, Alistair, Anna and Ariadne. But that's really all that I can think about. We're like 2 weeks out from this book's release, and I'm gonna take you along with me for, you know, when I go to pick up the book. I'm gonna take you along with me when I start the book. Obviously, that's what a reading vlog is. We're gonna be there for each other. Hope you enjoy. Here we go. It is Tuesday, January 24th. There's also a tornado watch. I don't know what the conspiracy is, but there always seems to be a natural disaster every time I'm filming a Cassandra Clare video. So what's that about? We are officially 1 week, 7 days out from Chain of Thorns. The anxiety is increasing with every minute that passes. And it's increasing even more so because as I knew what happened, but like I still hoped it wouldn't happen. The book definitely leaked. It definitely leaked at some point within the last like week or so. And so it's like kind of been making the rounds. Rumors, there are rumors that it's making the rounds. I haven't seen it, but it is. Spoilers are abound. I have thankfully not come across any like flat out spoilers, but I follow like a couple of people that have looked at the spoilers and have been vaguely tweeting about them, and I had to mute those people because first of all, they're adding to my anxiety. Second of all, I just don't trust them to like not completely spoil it at some point within the next week, and I just don't want to see anything about it. Like I want to know absolutely nothing. Like I want to know less than nothing actually. But from what I can tell from those very vague tweets that I saw is that something fucking crazy happens with Matthew. And I know that like, as I already was thinking, the interlude grief chapter that Cassie Clare like posted the names of the chapters of the book like a couple weeks ago or something, and there's like some really interesting inclusions, like kind of non-traditional inclusions in the book. And there's a chapter, I think it's near the end of the book, called Interlude Grief. Now all that I could think of when I saw that was like BTS. Like it reminded me of like a BTS album title track, so that kind of stopped me from like freaking out about like what the actual contents of the chapter are. But now I'm thinking it has something to do with Matthew. And I don't know, like I just don't believe that he's gonna die, but like if he dies I feel like he'll come back to life in some way, but that's really too much like what happened to Jem in Clockwork Princess. So I don't know what's going on. I just know that like people are really shocked at what Cassie did with Matthew in this book. From those vague tweets, I have a feeling that something happens with Matthew and Cordelia. Like maybe they like kiss or something. Like I don't know what's gonna happen with them, but I feel like something definitely happens between the two of them, maybe in Paris, I don't know. Once I'm like editing this video and I like have already read the book, I'm gonna be looking back on this, I'm gonna be like either laughing or crying. I don't know, this is just like my week before checkup. I'm not doing well. No, I'm doing well, but like in terms of like waiting on this book, I'm not doing well. I just finished up like a weekend of traveling across Texas. I went to Austin for the weekend, and it was like a really quick trip and like multiple road trips within 24 hours, and it was like really exhausting. So to be honest, this week is just about like preparing myself mentally, physically, figuratively, metaphorically for Chain of Thorns. I'm gonna game and I'm just going to take care of myself because I know I'm going to be in much distress today, next week. Anyway, see you then, I guess. Today's the day. I'm up and everybody has their copies. Everybody's reading it. Everybody's halfway done reading it. Some people are already done reading it. A lot of people started reading the ebook when it dropped at midnight. I did not do that because I want that book to look me in the eyes physically when it hurts me. I'm being hard-headed and playing the waiting game, but honestly, I'm just putting off the inevitable. Okay, so it is about 11:15 now. I feel like it's finally a suitable enough time for me to leave the house. So I have been sick for like the past week, so that's why I sound like this. And I still have like a little bit of a cough, but doing better. Anyway, here's the fit check. Got my boots on. It is 40 degrees here in Houston. Super cold today, so I'm gonna bundle up. I have an ugly jacket that I have to put over this because I don't have enough winter clothing to make like a cohesive outfit. So this is as good as it's gonna get. Go get Chain of Thorns now. I am dissociating so badly. I just like, I have nothing going on up here. Nothing at all. I'm in the Barnes & Noble parking lot. The book is in my possession. A matcha latte is also in my possession. That's how I feel. That's like exactly how I feel. Wait, no, this is messy.
Out in the open?
This is messy as hell. Okay, so clearly I'm home now. Me and my friend Samira are about to finally sit down and start the book. We sat down and FaceTimed a little bit, but we're just like procrastinating. But we're finally about to actually start the book. So here it is. Pretty big. It's only 100 more pages than Chain of Iron. The last clip that I just showed you, we looked at the first illustration in the book because I don't know if you can see, but there are some like dark spots in the pages, and those are all like illustrated pictures that are like going with the story. So we looked at the first one, and it is a huge massive spoiler because it's Cordelia and Matthew literally making out. I can't say that I'm surprised. Can't say that I'm mad because quite frankly, I love mess and I love drama. So I'm anxious, I'm excited, more anxious than excited, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna start, and I'm gonna try not to be annoying with how frequently I update. Also, the collector's first edition has like the illustrations throughout the story, and it also has a reverse cover of James, which is fine. It's kind of bland, if we're being honest. It's like, it could have been a little bit more exciting because like this is exciting, but I hate her. But like, I'm probably just gonna keep this cover because it's just like, it's just more dramatic, more exciting. I like green, so yeah, we're probably just gonna do that. And then the naked cover has like a rose embossed on it, and it has like this pinkish purple foil on the spine, which I really wasn't expecting that color, but okay. On my tabs, I'm only gonna be tabbing on my first read through. I'm not gonna be like annotating or writing or underlining or anything because we just gotta get through the book first. For real this time, here we go. Okay, I am unexpectedly flying through this fucking book. It's been a couple of hours since we started the book. Clearly, like, the sun is setting, it's evening now. I am a little over 100 pages in. I'm on chapter 5 and I'm on page 106. I'm gonna stop for now because I have to go like eat dinner and stuff, but a lot is happening. So where do we even begin? Do we want like a full recap? I don't know. Cordelia and Matthew in Paris. They are kind of like traversing the streets a little bit. Cordelia has told us about their kind of time that they've spent there. I think they've been there for maybe like 5 days or so once the book is like starting. Matthew has bought her clothes because she literally went to Paris with the clothes on her body and nothing else. He bought her a bunch of clothes. They've just been spending a lot of time together, and like it's very clear Matthew's affections for her, but like he hasn't made any advances yet. Cordelia is just kind of stuck in a place mentally where she just like kind of feeling a lot. I think she's really like in the headspace to where she is kind of feeling like she owes Matthew a lot for all the stuff, all the money that he's spending on her, because obviously like she does not have the money to be spending. Like her family is broke basically. She feels like she owes him for the money he's spending on her, and she also feels like she kind of owes him maybe emotionally, maybe him loving her and her not fully reciprocating. I think she's just in a weird place because she really believes that James does not love her, and so she almost feels like it's mandatory that she accepts whatever love that someone has for her, even if it's not the person that she loves. She's just having like a dilemma. Matthew is supposedly not drinking. Cordelia like talked a whole bunch about it in her internal monologue about how she was like really surprised, like Matthew has been completely dry since they came to Paris and he just seems like he has so much energy. I'm not buying it for a fucking second. Like, it's definitely a misdirect. I feel like Matthew is definitely drinking on the down low, and if he's not, then I just feel like that's really unrealistic. But I just think it's gonna be like a whole thing when Cordelia does find out that he has been drinking this whole time, because there's just realistically no way that he has just like quit cold turkey, even though that's definitely what he told her he was going to do. She just recently made like a comment about how tired he looked, and like, I don't know, I just feel like this is all gonna make sense once it's, you know, revealed that he has definitely been drinking this whole time. Magnus, Will, and James have found Lucy, and they're at the Cornwall residence of Malcolm the Warlock. Malcolm is just, I just can't stand him. Like, I've read The Dark Artifices, we've gone over this whole fucking thing, I've seen everything that happens in the future with Annabelle and his obsession and everything. So that's kind of pissing me off, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I just know the storyline, and it's just not one that like I want to see the beginnings of, especially when it has to do with like, he's literally, I don't think he's gonna let Lucy just go because she promised that she would get him in touch with Annabelle, but he's like, no, you can bring her back, we just have to wait until you're strong enough. Lucy definitely does not want to do that. Like, she doesn't even want to attempt to bring Annabelle back. So that whole thing is stressing me out. James is just in a fucking disarray. One of the lines that I just read was James and Lucy finally having like a kind of private discussion, which they haven't had in a while. Lucy was telling James about how like she heard about how Matthew and Cordelia went to Paris together. She was like, are you sure you don't mind? And he was like, no, I mind, I fucking mind a lot. And he was like, I don't know, like, do you think that they're in love? Like, do you think that Cordelia loves Matthew? And Lucy was like, well, I don't think so, but Paris is a romantic city, so you need to get your ass over there ASAP before anything kind of happens. And he was like, yeah, you're right. She literally was like, you need to get there post haste. And I was like, yeah. As of right now, my opinion has not changed. Like, I'm very disinterested in Lucy, Jesse, Grace, those storylines. Like, I'm reading them, but they are just like they're not computing for me. I want to see what happens to like Jesse and stuff. Like, I think they're going to try to mask him as being a different Blackthorn. Like, they're gonna try to say that he's a different Blackthorn than he is, and then bring him back to like the Enclave and like their Shadowhunter society and stuff. But yeah, we're just gonna have to see what happens with that. I'm stressed. I'm like less than a chapter away from the Matthew Cordelia scene, and me and Samira have decided that James is almost definitely gonna walk in on them, or he's gonna appear at some point. Like, I think he's gonna catch them. If he doesn't catch them, I think he's going to appear in Paris like right after that moment, and that's my theory for right now, so we'll see if I'm right. Bitch, what the fuck is going on? the fuck is going on in chapter 6? Please, someone help. Send help right now. Call 911. Call the emergency services. This is not... I was never strong enough for this. It was never this serious. It was never supposed to be like this. It was never supposed to be like this. We literally called every single thing that is happening. There was no part of this that we did not... We were prepared for this, and somehow it still didn't work.
And somehow it got worse.
It got worse. It's still getting worse.
Also, and on top of it being worse, we got visual aid.
Let's talk about the visual aid. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about
time.
I need y'all to know that this is not fucking okay. Like, this is not fucking okay. Last night was a fucking disaster. I just woke up. It's the next day, obviously. And I can't talk too loud because people are still asleep in my house. Last night, what I read of Chain of Thorns was the complete antithesis of okay. I've been staying offline, and so I thankfully have not been spoiled for anything Chain of Thorns, but I was very much correct in my assumption based on those vague tweets that I saw that, yeah, something was gonna happen with Cordelia and Matthew. But I don't think I fully understood what that meant. I am now about 176 pages into the book. We stopped on chapter 10 last night. When we last spoke, James was still with Will and Magnus. They were collecting Lucy and Jesse from Malcolm in his Cornwall residence. Cordelia and Matthew were still traversing around Paris, and you know, we have our other characters, Thomas, Alistair, Anna, Ariadne. They're dealing with their own things. To be quite frank with you, I am not going to talk about them right now just yet because they're not our main players right now. Right now we just really need to discuss what is going on with our main leads because this is just so catastrophic. The last thing I told you was that James and Lucy had a discussion, and the last thing that she said to him was that he needs to get to Paris post haste because he just doesn't really know what's going on or what could be going on with Cordelia and Matthew. So right after that, we jump to a Cordelia and Matthew scene. They're still traversing around Paris. They go out for a night on the town or whatever. They end up not getting let into an establishment that they had went to the night before because the owners know that they're shadow hunters now, and they specifically know that Cordelia is Lilith's paladin, so they don't want to like let her in anymore. They can't go there anymore. So I think they're like headed back to the hotel or something. They get attacked by demons, and Cordelia does not have any weapons on her because every weapon that she raises will be like she's fighting for Lilith, and she will be using Lilith's paladin abilities. So she just like left all her weapons at home. Matthew is the only one with a weapon, so he is the one that like slays all the demons. But she does end up jumping in, and she uses like Matthew's cane or something, and she like smashes a demon's head, whatever. And then Lilith appears, and she's like, I knew you couldn't stay away from fighting. So she's kind of just like making Cordelia feel worse about herself. And Cordelia's headspace in this book is like a really sick place for me to be in personally, because Cordelia is my favorite character, and the way that she is thinking of herself in this book is like so sick, honestly, because she's just in this place where like she feels like everyone's lying to, well, we'll get to that, we'll get to the lying part, but she feels like no one is really there for her, which leaves her in a very vulnerable state of being. So
after they like slay these demons or whatever, like I said, Cordelia's in a very vulnerable state. And so I don't exactly know how we ended up here, and I'm not gonna go back to the page and like read it to you. She ends up asking Matthew to kiss her. I don't necessarily think that it's because he's Matthew. I don't necessarily think it's because she wanted a kiss specifically from Matthew. I just think, like I said, very vulnerable, very just like in the moment. And so she asks Matthew to kiss her, and he does. And then we flip to another scene about Grace and Christopher, which I'm not even going to entertain because Cassandra Clare, she thought that was funny to interrupt that scene to go to Grace and Christopher. I'm not going to entertain that. So we go back to Matthew and Cordelia, and okay, smoochy smooch on a bridge in Paris. No big deal. No big deal at all. I expected this to happen. I am fine with it, and I was convinced that James was gonna find them like right after their first kiss or whatever. Wow, they're kissing. They don't even kiss for too long before Matthew is like, yeah, we have to go back to the hotel before I disgrace you in front of all of Paris. Disgrace you and myself in front of all of Paris. And then suddenly it's them stumbling their way back to the hotel room. Okay. They get to the hotel room. They're like stumbling their way through like hidden like dark doorways and dark hallways, and they're like kissing the entire way. And they stumble into the hotel room, and she's like, let's go to your room, and he's like, no, my room's dirty, let's go to yours. And then all of a sudden he's carrying her through the doorway, bridal style, by the way. All of a sudden a lamp flicks on in the corner of the room. It's James. It's James in the corner of the room that they've just stumbled into kissing. I couldn't even make this up if I tried. This is so messy of Cassandra Clare, and to be honest, I'm living for it. But chapter 7 is the reason that I'm not living for it. Like, I love the drama, trust me, but chapter 7, which that happens in chapter 6, we like the end of chapter 6 is like James in the corner of the room, like that's the last line. Then we go to chapter 7 where they have a confrontation and quite frankly a showdown in the hotel room between the three of them. And that is the chapter that I had to close the book and just not open it back up for like 2 hours. I was pacing my room. I was shaking, screaming, crying. Chapter 7 is some of the most sick material that I've ever read in my life. So basically in chapter 7, they all have this big like conversation in the hotel room, and James is like, wow, didn't know this is what I was walking into. Cordelia takes Matthew's hand and she's like, what are you doing here? Because Cordelia's state of mind, the last thing that she saw was James let Grace into their home, their sacred home, and say like, oh, thank God you're here, you know, whatever he was saying to entice Grace to come in and like pretend that he was still under her spell. That is the last thing that Cordelia saw of James, and she is like, she cannot let go of this moment. Like, this moment trumps all of the moments that they've had that are like romantic and like full of meaning, because she felt just such betrayal from this moment that she feels like there's just like no going back at this point, and she feels like she's just been ultimately lied to, and she feels like James is still lying to her. James, I can't remember the scene like word for word, beat for beat. At this point, I'm sure we've all read the scene, so we know that like James is holding a bottle of alcohol, and it turns out to be from Matthew's room, which, what did I tell y'all? I literally said there's no way that Matthew is sober. I didn't believe it for a moment. I didn't believe it when he said it in Chain of Iron. Like, it was just completely unrealistic, and I turned out to be right. So then when Cordelia finds this out, she's like, okay, great. Literally everyone has been lying to me. Not a single person has been telling me the truth. Everyone has been, you know, withholding things from me. There's no one that I can trust anymore. And that's Cordelia's inner monologue. James's inner monologue, he's talking about how he just lost the two most important people in his life. I need you to look me in the eye and tell me, how is this going to be fixed in the next 500 pages? I need you to tell me that this is going to be okay by the end of the book, because I just can't believe that right now. James and Cordelia do have a couple of private conversations as to where I'm at right now, but James refused to tell Cordelia in the moment in the hotel room. Like after the whole thing between the three of them, he goes to her room to talk to her alone. He refused to tell her about the bracelet because in this moment it seems unbelievable. I don't think that she will believe me if I tell her this. So he ends up not telling her. However, he is refusing to tell anybody about the bracelet before he tells Cordelia. He wants Cordelia to be the first person that he tells, but he's refusing to tell her. What? So what? So what now? After that, all he does is tell her, I love you. I never loved Grace. I thought I did, but I didn't. And I love you. Kind of just like keeps telling her this. And Cordelia's mind is just like not in a place to accept any of this. Like she needs to think, she needs to contemplate over all of this. And so she ends up like, once they all return to London, she ends up like wanting to go back to her mother's house, like her mother, with the house where her mother and Alistair are staying. She's like, I need to think about all of this. I can't with you and Matthew right now. Like, love y'all, but I gotta go and I need some space. So that's basically where I'm at right now. And I'm just like I'm not understanding. Like my brain is refusing to comprehend this situation. I don't know where we go from here. Like I am this much through the book. I don't know where we go from here. I wanted to take my time with this book, but like I think I'm literally being driven insane and I need to finish this just as soon as possible. Like it's just not even, I have to just get through it. Like, and this is not how I wanted the last book to go at all. I'm about to start reading again. I am on chapter 10 and I just need to go back because I saw this tab that I have right here and I just need us to collectively read this line together. So Matthew is talking about how Cordelia was with me. I thought I would not require the bottle, but it seems too late for that. The bottle requires me. And James says, I require you more. What a fucking insane line that is. That's all. I'm literally still on chapter 10 and I'm like sitting here about to cry over this conversation that Matthew and Thomas are having. Matthew's like telling him everything and this is just so depressing. Page 240, the girls are fucking fighting. The girls are fighting. Cordelia and Lucy, they are going in on each other. I'm fucking screaming at the things that they're saying to each other. I'm kind of living. I'm sorry, I'm living. I know how he looks, like he wants to die without you, and you expect me to believe you ran off with Matthew in a purely friendly way and nothing romantic passed between you, and you would blame me if it did. Cordelia felt a white fire of rage and pain blaze up under her ribs, nearly choking off her breath. Do you know what it's like to be in a marriage that's a lie, where you're the only person who feels anything? James never felt a thing for me. He never looked at me the way Matthew has. He was too busy looking at Grace, your new best friend. Why don't you ask him if he kissed Grace while we were married? Better, why don't you ask him how many times he kissed Grace while we were married? You're still married, Lucy was shaking her head, and I don't believe you. Then you're calling me a liar, and perhaps that is the distance between us. It is the same as the distance between myself and James. It has a name, Grace Blackthorne. Like, Cordelia. Cordelia went crazy. Cordelia went crazy on Lucy. No, because this is what I have been waiting for. Oh, this is so good, bitch. This is so good. All right, I'm back. I'm back. I was really feeling depressed, but I'm back. Because this is good. I'm so sorry. I don't care. Like, I never cared. I never will care. I'm so sorry. The fact that I still have this much of the book left is like such a joke right now. So Grace just told Jesse everything about the bracelet. This is literally the first time that anyone has learned of the bracelet. And he is so disgusted by it. And I'm feeling very, very vindicated. I'm feeling very vindicated. He is like saying like, how could you have done all of this? And she was like, how could I not? Mother told me it was a great gift. She said I was a weapon in her hand, that if I only did what she said, together we could bring you back. Don't use me as an excuse, Jesse snapped. I felt I had no choice, but you did, he said. You had a choice. I know that now. I wasn't strong enough. I was trying to be strong enough. That is why I'm here and why I won't leave. I told James the truth, but you haven't told anyone else. Lucy is unaware of this, and Cordelia, what you've done to their marriage, Grace. James hasn't told her, Grace thought in surprise. I can't tell anyone. I shouldn't have told you. It's a secret. The Silent Brothers wish to keep it hidden so they can use the information to deceive our mother as to what they know. I don't believe you, Jesse said flatly. You are trying to make me a party to your deception, and I won't have it. Ask James, she said. He will tell you just what I have. Talk to him before you speak with anyone else. He has a right. Jesse stood up, knocking over his chair. It clattered to the stone floor. You are the last person to lecture me about James's rights. I must go, he said. I feel sick. Like, exactly. I've been feeling sick for 2 fucking years. Actually, 3 years. I'm just glad that someone knows now. And like, I'm really upset at how far this is being dragged out into this book, because I genuinely thought, I didn't say this before, but I genuinely thought that this would be resolved by now. I thought that, James and Cordelia, I stupidly did think that James and Cordelia were going to talk about the bracelet at the very beginning of the book. But something that I don't agree with in the way that this book has been structured is that this has been dragged out this long, because it's already been dragged out since the first book. It didn't need to be dragged out longer than this, and I hope my mind changes by the time I finish this book, because clearly much more is to come. But I'm like really quite upset at that, and I wish this had been resolved already, because there's too many other plot points for this to be continued to be dragged like this. I love Thomas and Alistair. I really do. Thomas and let me just comment on them real quick. Thomas and Alistair, I really want to see a happy ending for them. And in Ariadne, it really seems like they're gonna get the happy ending that I thought they were. So that's good news. Things are progressing pretty slowly for both of the couples. Seems like they just have some things that they need to work out, and they'll be able to be together. So yeah, I haven't really been saying much about those two pairings. I feel like they'll both be okay in the end, even though I did say that Thomas and Alistair were probably doomed. But I don't know. I feel like they're okay. I'm just like way too worried about the other leading characters to put too much energy, but they're all very, very cute. Honestly, I'm at this point wondering if Cassandra Clare took a break from writing this book, watched Bridgerton season 2, and then went back to writing, because James and Cordelia are giving such Kate and Anthony from season 2 of Bridgerton. Just bickering and miscommunicating and being at each other's throats, and it's sick to watch and it's annoying. And I just want to slap both of them and make them communicate with each other properly, because this is just not it. It's not it. I am at this point like nearly halfway through, and they have not had a single truly communicative conversation that achieves absolutely anything. So that's the current state of affairs. Okay, so page 298 right now. Jesse and James are having a conversation, which is very interesting. And Jesse is telling James that he knows about the bracelet now. He's like, so you haven't told anyone? And James is like, no. It feels as telling them would be like reliving every moment of what happened. They would have questions and pity, and I could bear neither. And so Jesse was telling him about how he felt when, you know, Belial was possessing his body. And he was like, I tell myself over and over, there was nothing I could have done, and I still believe somehow in my heart I could have stopped it. And James was like, of course you couldn't. You were being controlled. Jesse was like, yes. Do you pity me? And James is like, no. And so Jesse's like, do not think so little of your friends and of Cordelia as to imagine they will feel differently than that. And it's just like, I'm so happy for this conversation because Jesse's kind of, you know, maybe getting through to James that he does need to tell Cordelia, even if he tells nobody else, he needs to tell Cordelia because she won't pity him. Like, she literally needs this information. I'm happy we're getting baby steps here. What did he say? Wait, what did he say?
I swear to the angel, if you die, I will die, and I will haunt you. I will give you no peace. Oh.
It's Wuthering Heights, bro.
No, but bestie, keep reading.
I gotta put my hair back up. I look so crazy right now.
No, be.
Where's my pillow? I threw it off the bed. Oh, I can't move fast. Do you have any idea what it would do to me if something happened to you? Do you?
In fact, this is the first book we're seeing him completely without the bracelet. Wow. So I haven't moved on from that.
I will never move on from that. The family tree, really? Really? Why did she leave? She keeps hearing the same thing and then she leaves every single time. Like, you need to ask why. You need to stick around to see why.
It means I would rather have a home with you than all the world. If you cannot believe me now, believe the James who gave you that necklace long before you left for parents. My God, what other reason could I have for placing those verses there, save that I loved you but was too much a coward to say it? So he wrote that while having the bracelet on.
He did. This video has quickly devolved into me testing new angles in my room, apparently. I feel like I've been updating pretty frequently today with my reading, but I am now, I believe, halfway through the book. I'm in the middle of a chapter right now, but basically we just had like two really big James and Cordelia moments, which like I'm shocked at like how they were like so close together. It took us this long to get. I don't think I'm really hiding my feelings about that in particular. I'm pretty upset that it has taken until the middle of the book for us to get like any real progress with James and Cordelia, if you could even call it that, because basically we had like a big moment where they finally kissed. I'm sure you could tell by the reaction of me and Samira. It was a moment where Cordelia, it was after Cordelia had basically taken the advice of Hypatia Vex, and she was like, you know what? I'm gonna summon demons
and I'm gonna get information from them, and because they can't hurt me, so I'm just gonna get the information and then I'm gonna banish them and they'll go away and they won't hurt me, so it should be fine. It was not fine. Basically, Cordelia did this thing where like she went to the alleyway that her dad died in. So she summoned a demon and she was like talking with it and getting information, but she didn't realize that when she summoned one demon, others would follow. And the other demons, they didn't really follow the same rules as the main demon that she summoned, in that they weren't gonna hurt her just because she's a paladin of Lilith. And she didn't have any weapon. She hasn't had a weapon this entire book, which is like really frustrating, not only for her, but for me. Basically, she would have died, but James came out of the shadows. He had been tracking her because he was like really confused as to what she was doing over there. James tracked her to the location, and thank God he did, because she literally would have been in so much trouble if he didn't. So he saved her from like the demons and everything. And basically he just like angrily started walking back to Curzon Street, their home, and they have not been in this home together since the events of Chain of Iron. They both went there, they went to the study, and James just like starts blowing up on Cordelia because he's so afraid for her, because she's not able to like wield any weapons or anything like that. And he's just basically like, why would you put yourself in that situation? He was convinced that she was trying to kill herself when he heard that she was headed to the location where her dad died. He was like, I was convinced that you were also trying to die. And I was thinking, have I treated you that badly that you would want to just die, basically? Here was the part where I lost my mind. He said, and I quote, "I swear to the angel, if you die, I will die, and I will haunt you. I will give you no peace." Which is very similar to the quote from Wuthering Heights that is very, very famous, which is, "You said I killed you. Haunt me then. Be with me always. Take any form. Drive me mad. Only do not leave me in this abyss where I cannot find you." It was a direct reference to that quote from Wuthering Heights, and I am physically, mentally unwell. So some other stuff happens. We have Grace and Christopher over there. They're getting together, they're getting closer. Interesting. The last time that we saw Grace talking to Christopher, she was talking about how there's one person that she has hurt that she has not spoken to, and that is Cordelia Carstairs. So I'm thinking that Grace is actually going to be the one to tell Cordelia to her face about the bracelet, and I am so excited, and I hope that that happens, because I need to see Grace and Cordelia showdown. Like, I need to see that in this book. I will say that it's kind of frustrating that all of the couples are kind of in the same position. They're all very self-sacrificing, and it's getting a little bit redundant, but it's still really interesting to see all of these one-on-one interactions. And even though they're all like pretty quick and, you know, we're moving through scenes really quickly, I think they give a very interesting glimpse at where all of the characters are at across the board. Alistair and Thomas, so good, so good. Anna and Ari, so good. Loving it over there for sure. The scene that I just read was James finally showing Cordelia what's in the necklace, and it was like a poem. I don't even want to talk about it. It was a whole thing. If you've read it, you know. It was him showing her that he's loved her this entire time, even when she thought that he loved Grace. She was like, okay, so you loved me and Grace at the same time then? And he was like, no, I never loved Grace. And all she said was, all right, I gotta go. Every time that James makes an attempt to start the conversation of what happened to him with Grace and the reason why they're having this whole misunderstanding about Grace, she just walks off. And I understand why, like, it's just a lot for her and she's just not able to comprehend, but maybe if she had all the information, she would be able to comprehend. So it's a little bit frustrating. I don't know where it's gonna go from here. At the Christmas party right now, I'm gonna read on, and I'm just hoping for this Cordelia Grace showdown soon. Also, with the whole like Belial plot of the story, yeah, it's happening. I'm just like ignoring it because it's gonna come up inevitably. Like, it's gonna happen within the next like 200 pages or so. So I'm just not even stressing myself trying to figure out that mystery. We're gonna figure it out soon enough. Not James picking Cordelia up, trying to open the locked door, and then firing his gun at it to open it so they can go bang. I've never lost. Like, I've always won. So it's like almost midnight on February 1st. Wait, well, it would be February 2nd. Anyway, I'm trying to decide after all of today's antics. I read almost like 300 pages today alone, which is really fast for me, by the way. It's really been shocking me how fast I'm reading this book because I was not intending to read that fast. And also, I didn't necessarily want to read that fast. I wanted to like savor it since this is the end of my favorite series. I'm almost done with chapter 23 and I'm trying to decide if I want to keep reading tonight, because after chapter 26 is the interlude grief or intermission grief, and I don't know what happens in that, and I'm scared, and I'm scared of like my reaction to that. So if like, do I want to sob my eyes out at like 1 or 2 a.m. or do I just want to like go to sleep right now and wake up and sob my eyes out at like 12 p.m. I don't know. So I'm gonna keep reading and I'm gonna see what the vibes are. I'm just gonna like feel it out. Also, I literally cannot get over chapter 23. James and Cordelia, I'm moving in. I can't even begin to describe how much I won. What a moment. Anyway, today drained me. Hey. So I just read Intermission Grief. And not as bad as I thought it was going to be. But that's not saying much. So, it's 3 a.m. Good night. So a bit of a late start today because I just had to really let what I read last night sink in. Kind of just ponder the 400 pages of Chain of Thorns that I read yesterday alone. So last night I read chapter 24, 25, and 26, and then I read Intermission Grief, which is the dreaded chapter that I was like really getting myself worked up about. I was actually genuinely very anxious leading up to that chapter because I thought that that would be the emotional crux or emotional climax of this book for whatever reason. I guess because it's like kind of like a non-traditional addition to the chapters of the book. So I thought that that was like really going to be something that was going to break me, that was going to like really ruin my life. To be honest, I will say that the chapter wasn't what I was fearing it was, but that almost makes me more scared to read the rest of this book because I still have 200 pages left, especially since the things that I have been fearing haven't necessarily happened yet, and I still feel like there's so much time for them to happen. So let's kind of discuss what has happened in those few chapters that I read really late last night. So we finally got Cordelia. That is the biggest fucking thing. And if y'all could understand how I sat at chapter 23 for about 3 hours yesterday. It was so well done. It was so well earned. I will say the only thing about that scene, I was really expecting to see
the scene between Cordelia and Grace. And I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't get to see it. After a while, I understood and appreciated the fact that we only got the scene through kind of like flashbacks, because what else is that moment going to be between them? Like, Grace is locked up behind bars. It's really hard for her to talk about that and tell that story in detail. And all that scene would be like rehashing things that we already know, like things that we've known since the beginning of the series. First, I was a little caught off guard, but I was like, okay, like realistically, all Cordelia did was sit there and listen to the story and then run out of there as fast as she fucking could to get to James. And you know what? As she should. I understand why Cassandra Clare, once, you know, all the puzzle pieces were in place, I understand why she just wanted to get to that, because literally I was just complaining about how long into the book it was until they communicated, but they communicated in more ways than one. I'm so happy for them. I'm so happy for them. Me win. I don't know, like Cassandra Clare just struck fucking gold with James and Cordelia. Like, are you kidding me? You like, it doesn't get better than this. I'm so sorry to say that it just doesn't get better than this. Anyways, James and Cordelia, finally. Before that, of course, I don't think I even mentioned that Cordelia kind of told Matthew, like, she kind of let him down. I was gonna say she let him down easy. I don't really think that she let him down easy. It was a pretty brutal scene, but it needed to be done. Matthew's on the road to getting sober, which is really, really nice to see, and I really like the depiction of it because it's just like, it's really realistic. Anna and Ari, who has changed her name to Ari after moving out of her parents' house and everything, that has been like a whole plot with them, is that Ari was kind of kicked out basically by her parents, but Anna has been there with her throughout the entire journey. They have just been really amazing as a pair. I truly, truly love their moments together. Thomas and Alistair are fucking everything. Like, I just love them together. I love Alistair's arc. It has been done so well. And of course, Thomas has been there with him the entire way. Ari and Alistair's entrance into the entire crew, the expanded Merry Thieves of sorts, has been amazing. And I just love to see all of the extended Merry Thieves, not just the 4 boys, but, you know, Cordelia, Lucy, even Jesse. Jesse's addition as well has been so amazing. At this point, I like Jesse more than I like Lucy. I'm so sorry about that, but he has turned into such an interesting character, and I really like what has been done with him. Seeing all of the characters work through the plot of the story together, which I haven't even talked about. The whole Belial, Tatiana thing. Yeah. That's not even what I'm here for. Like, I'm just here for these characters, to just spend as much time with them as I can before it's over. So there's like a whole fight and everything. Unfortunately, we lost Christopher, which was really fucking sad, really shocking to me. I didn't predict that it would be Christopher, because I wasn't really checking for him like that. I thought he was safe because I wasn't even worried about him, but sometimes those are the characters that are the first to go. Christopher was a wonderful character. R.I.P. King. I loved him, but it was also one of those deaths that was almost more impactful because you get to see the people who are still alive's reaction to it. When it happened, I was shocked and I was feeling things. I was sad, but when I saw Thomas's reaction, all of the Merry Thieves were reacting. That's when it like really got me. Tears were shed. Tears were definitely shed. He had died by protecting Cordelia, because Cordelia was trying during the battle as hard as she could not to pick up a blade and start fighting, because Lilith is summoned every single time that she pulls out a blade and starts fighting. Throughout the entire book, she's been trying not to do that. So during this entire fight, she was trying really hard not to, and Tatiana was targeting her. So Christopher dove in front of her and took a knife for her in the neck. And he was like, oh, I'm fine. The knife was poisoned. So that is what ended up killing him. Before Cordelia even knew that Christopher had died, Cordelia had chased Tatiana away from the battle that was going on at the Institute, and she was like a dilemma on whether or not she should kill her. Like, she was like, no, I have to show mercy. Lilith was summoned and she was telling Cordelia to kill Tatiana, and Cordelia was really refusing, trying to hold herself back from Lilith's influence, because Lilith, whenever she commands Cordelia to do something, to kill somebody, her body starts to move against her will. So she was really holding back, but then Lilith showed her what was going on at the Institute and how Christopher was dying from Tatiana's blade. And so Cordelia just like let go, and she slit Tatiana's throat. Tatiana burst into flames and died. I think Cordelia was really struggling because she didn't feel bad about doing that. I was on Lilith's side this entire time. To be honest, I think that the only thing that I don't like that Lilith is doing with Cordelia and with the whole paladin thing is how when she commands Cordelia to kill someone, her body moves against her will. I wish that Lilith was more of like talking to Cordelia and letting Cordelia come to her own desires of wanting to kill the bad guys, because it's really my anti-hero is jumping out here, because I don't see why you should spare mercy to someone like Tatiana.
Just popping in here really quick while editing to add on to my statement that I think what confused me the most about having Lilith as kind of one of the big bads of the series, it seemed as though Lilith and pretty much all of the Shadowhunters, including Cordelia, had the exact same nemesis. They were on the same side, essentially, for the entire time. And so it didn't really compute to me that Cordelia was fighting against Lilith so hard and fighting against Lilith's will, fighting against the power that Lilith gave her as a paladin. I know Lilith tricked her and everything, but like at the end of the day, they had the exact same goal, and it just wasn't really fully computing to me as to why we were fighting so hard to be against Lilith and against Belial when Lilith is also against Belial. So can't we just like use her power to defeat Belial and then we'll deal with her? I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts during this entire thing.
Cordelia heads back to the Institute. Everyone is like mourning Christopher, and it's so horrible and sad. Cordelia's like, yeah, Tatiana's fucking gone, and Grace is literally overwhelmed by joy at this. Like, she finally feels relief. Then Belial shows up, and through a series of events, he ends up convincing James to finally come to Edom and be by his side. And so like a big cloud of darkness starts to come to collect James to transport him to Edom. And of course Matthew runs and grabs onto James, and they're both transported to Edom. And intermission grief was Cordelia's reaction after James and Matthew were transported to Edom. So that's kind of where I left off at 3 a.m. last night. I think this is going to be my last long update, like before I finish the book. I might finish today, I might finish tomorrow, I might finish like tonight at 3 a.m. I don't know what's gonna happen, but for these last pages, I don't know how much I'm gonna update, to be honest. As much as I really love watching someone read the last pages of their favorite book, I don't know if I'm gonna actually do that, like set a camera up and record my reaction, just because I'm sure everyone watching this video knows that feeling, like of just finishing your favorite series ever. And it's just like, I don't really want to prop up a camera and record that, if I'm being honest. So yeah, what do I think is gonna happen in these last 200 pages? I don't think that Matthew is safe still. I have really been paying attention to the descriptions of Matthew throughout the book, and still strongly believe in my theory that somehow he's going to sacrifice himself for James, Cordelia, both of them, one of them, I don't know. I feel like it's still possible that in some way he will be the one that will stick around for the wicked powers. I don't know, like it's either he becomes a vampire, he stays in the fairylands, or he stays in Edom. Those are like my 3 options right now. Probably none of them will happen. I don't know what is going to happen. One of these characters is going to be in the Wicked Powers. I know that for certain. And Matthew's just the strongest contender. Now, I will say, the reason why I was really shaken up at, you know, chapter 26 and Intermission Grief is because I thought that death was going to be Matthew or James or Alistair. And so seeing that it wasn't him was what really shocked me, and was like kind of what like reined me in last night, and like why I said that that chapter didn't entirely affect me the way that I thought it was, and like it wasn't fully the emotional crux of the novel. R.I.P. Christopher, like I will miss him, he was such a king, but like I'm happy so far that it wasn't really one of the main characters that I really care about, but I don't think that we're in a safe territory at all whatsoever. So I don't know how the book is gonna end. And so yeah, this was a very long update. Thank you if you're still watching, and I will get back to you whenever I have a next update, if I do, but I'll definitely be getting back to you when I finish the book, whenever that is. Wish me luck, please. I finished Chain of Thorns. Thus, we have come to the end of the vlog. I finished Chain of Thorns last night at about 10:30. I was definitely dragging my feet there. I ended up just sitting down. I had about like the last, I think 3 chapters, and then the epilogue. I sat down at about like 9 and I just read all the way through without stopping for even a text message to my friends. Immersed myself in the ending of this book, fully stressed myself out and gave myself a headache. I literally almost made myself sick. Sick with worry and sick with the dread of what was coming in the epilogue. I think what I was really, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but I think what I was really dreading about the epilogue was that it was going to be something similar to Clockwork Princess's epilogue, which famously fucked me up and traumatized me. And to this day, I can't even look at the Infernal Devices and even think about rereading, because I was literally dry heaving when I read that epilogue. And to be honest, when I read most of Clockwork Princess, I pretty much cried my way through that entire book. That was only a couple years ago. This is not even something that happened, oh, I read it in 8th grade and cried over it or whatever. No, this was 3 years ago. Fully stand by my emotional reaction to those books, but it kind of sucks because, like I said, I can't even look at those books. They're some of my favorite books that I've ever read, but I genuinely cannot even fathom rereading them on a whim for comfort, or whenever I'm just missing the characters and missing the world that the series is set in. I can't fathom rereading them because I am just so scared of the end. Even though it's a very like heartfelt, bittersweet ending, it's just too much for me to handle, like, and it's gonna get me every time. But what I was really happy about, and honestly shocked, very surprised about, was how happy the ending of this book is, to the point where it almost doesn't even feel necessarily like it's over. I had like a FaceTime debrief session with my friends Daria and Samira after we all finished it, because we all finished it within the span of like 20 minutes of each other. And the first thing that Daria said when we got on the FaceTime was, when is book 4? That ending was just like so happy and so heartfelt and warm and inviting that it feels like it's really not over. And I'm kind of stuck between, on one hand, kind of wanting it to almost have felt more conclusive than that, but on the other hand, being so happy that with that type of ending that just feels so, arms are wide open, like welcoming you in. It truly feels like the story will never end and it will live on forever. And it makes me feel safe in thinking of the days when I am going to want to reread it from the start. I know that I won't have that like empty hole inside of me while reading Chain of Gold, because I will know that at the end it's an ending where I feel like all I want to do is just go back to the start and read it all over again and experience it all over again. Now, do I want to do that anytime soon? Absolutely not, but I can definitely say that I really love and enjoy and appreciate how this book wrapped up. So I guess where do I even begin? I'm gonna stop holding this up because it is very heavy, but let me just show you my tab situation. I definitely fell off here at the end. Let's kind of discuss my overall feelings on Chain of Thorns as a whole, as the last book in my favorite series, a conclusive book in general, separate of it being my favorite series. Do I think that it was successful? Do I think that it was the perfect book, as I have been known to say about some of Cassandra Clare's books, namely Chain of Gold? I will always call that a perfect book. Like, that is what I think of when I think of a 5-star book. It's just so good on every front. It has the perfect mixture, in my opinion, of plot and characters, and it just really throws you into the story and you feel so immersed. This is not a video about Chain of Gold. I've waxed poetic about Chain of Gold and just the entire vibe of the series, but was this book a 5 stars? No. I definitely had some glaring issues with this book. I think that was probably made obvious to you by some things that I kept saying in a lot of my vlog clips. But what really bothered me in this book was how long it took for James, Cordelia, and Matthew to resolve the situation between all three of them, and especially between James and Cordelia themselves. I was certain, for some reason, I was certain about a lot of things. We're gonna get into that in a little bit. For some reason, I genuinely felt that this book was going to pick up and really focus in, at least in the first third of the story, on those three characters and on resolving everything that we have been left to simmer with for 2 years at the end of Chain of Iron. Like, those feelings were just so intense. And so for us to jump into this book and just have it still be a very slow unraveling of drama between the relationships that we have already been dealing with over the course of the first 2 books, it felt like it was just drawn out too much, in my opinion. Me and my friends calculated the exact moment where James and Cordelia finally got together, and it's at 57%. This is the last book in the series. We have 10 main ensemble characters. I wouldn't even call James, Cordelia, and Matthew the main characters, because everyone in this book is a main character, and everyone, I feel like, especially in this third book, had an equal amount of page time, and that's why the book was so long. That's why there was constant breaks and going to a different scene with different characters, is because we had 10 characters to flesh out. We had 5 relationships to flesh out. Make no mistake, Cassandra Clare is a character author. She is not a plot author, and she never has been. Cassandra Clare is not a plot author, and that is okay. Not everyone needs to be, and Cassandra Clare definitely does not need to be, because her characters shine as bright as the sun. She gave pretty much all of these main characters, all of the ensemble, very amazing, like, depth-filled character development in this book, and I was super appreciative of it. However, I do wish that these plot lines had been staggered a little bit more. I wish that, like I said previously, I wish that the first third of the book would have been focused a little bit more on James, Matthew, and Cordelia. I wish we would have gotten all of that out of the way in the first third of the book before we started having to deal with those plot things that were happening in the rest of the book and kind of dealing with everyone else's development, because it just felt way too drawn out. Like, I've already read 2 books worth of this. If you put those books together, I've read 1,000 pages worth of this already. So why am I sitting here reading another 400 pages of James and Cordelia
bickering and miscommunicating and just refusing to communicate. It was just a little bit frustrating for me, especially as someone who my main focus in the series is James and Cordelia. Just a couple steps up more than everyone else because I love the entire cast to death, but James and Cordelia is why I'm here. It took too long. It took too long. I'm so sorry it did. Now, was it satisfying when it did come around? Absolutely. But yeah, it just there's a lot of things in this book that I would change structure wise. So let's jump into something else that I clearly was holding on to with both hands. I was holding on to this so tightly, that Matthew Fairchild was going to turn into a vampire, get stuck in the fairylands. Like, now that I read the book, I realize how much that Cassandra Clare has played me for a fool, because she herself was also hinting to something on her social media, but I think she was just playing into the fandom's weird ass theories that ultimately amounted to nothing. And they did amount to nothing. Matthew Fairchild, as far as we know, at the end of the book, he's off on his travels, his solo travels. He's doing really well with his addiction, and he feels like he needs to take a little step back from James and Cordelia just to heal a little bit. And he's doing really, really well. He has long hair. It was kind of giving Lestat from the Interview with the Vampire TV show that came out last year. And he's just doing really well. And that's as far as we know. He's alive, he's going on his travels, and we don't know anything else. So like, technically, yeah, something could happen that we don't know yet to where he would be in the Wicked Powers, but like, it's not necessarily plausible because we got no hint whatsoever as to that happening. So I guess let's talk about like the plot with Tatiana and Belial. Okay, pretty much more of the same for Cassandra Clare in terms of what she feels that she needs to do with all of the alternate universes and the different realms and the demon realms and everything. She feels this need to add that. Well, I mean, rightfully so. It is the tether that is connecting all of her Shadowhunter Chronicles into one series, and that's ultimately going to be the Avengers Endgame that is the Wicked Powers. That's kind of what is going to be like the final battle of all of this. And that plot, like, it really is just more of the same. Like, it threw me back in time to reading The Dark Artifices and even to reading City of Heavenly Fire and everything, because City of Heavenly Fire and Chain of Thorns both kind of take place on Edom, at least the latter half of Chain of Thorns. They both take place on Edom, which is Lilith's realm. There was some very, very interesting throwbacks and parallels to City of Heavenly Fire that I definitely found interesting. Like, I noticed them, namely James stabbing himself in the heart, and that paralleled when Sebastian stabbed himself. It was kind of like the end of that in City of Heavenly Fire. Very iconic scene if you have read The Mortal Instruments. So I recognized that parallel, and I was like, okay, cool. But ultimately, the plot was just, I was like, all right, I'm here for the ride, I guess. I have the same feelings as I did at the beginning of the book. I loved James and Cordelia, obviously. I love Matthew, obviously. Ari and Anna, superb, absolutely wonderful. The hero of this book, though, surprisingly, like the couple that I found that I just started to love more and more and more, even though, you know, I thought that I already loved everyone to the extent that I could love them, was Thomas and especially Alistair. Alistair Carstairs was the king of this book, very randomly, and I am so pleased that he was able to get that really deep character development that he deserved, and it just completed his arc from the first book to this book. He just had a perfect arc, and I think it was done beautifully, executed amazingly. Him and Thomas were just fucking wonderful. Literally just a treat every single time that they had a scene together. So I guess just to conclude, I have finished the Last Hour series. I can confirm that this is one of, if not my favorite series ever. I think that a lot of people just have a very like a rightfully earned weird opinion on Cassandra Clare and all of her Shadowhunters books, and I feel like a lot of people that haven't really looked too much into it past the Mortal Instruments just have like an opinion that, oh, Cassandra Clare is still writing those books, like they're no good, like there's a million of them. But if anyone who is not reading these books is watching this video, I just want to let you know, like, even if this is not your thing, even if you have absolutely no intentions of reading anything Cassandra Clare, I need you to know that she's a genius. Sorry to say, she's an amazing writer. She has grown, as people do, in her skill over her very, very long career at this point. These books have been going on for over 15 years, and her writing has gotten better and better. And so with this being her most recent completed series, it is absolutely her best work. And I don't think that that's controversial to say. I think it's very much well known, even though some people don't, you know, love the Infernal Devices, but I think it's widely accepted that her strong suit is writing these books that are set in these period settings. Regency, Edwardian era London. I don't know why. She's not a Londoner. She's not from the UK, but she just has a gift of writing in this specific time period, in this specific setting. And with this specific cast of characters, it was just a recipe for an amazing series from start to finish. And these characters are just gonna follow me for the rest of my life, to be honest. It's just gonna stick with me forever, and I just will never stop talking about them. I could read you some of my favorite quotes, but we would be here all day, quite frankly, because the way that she writes in these particular books is just, it has clearly changed my brain chemistry. Because as you saw from the beginning of this video, I used to be a Cassandra Clare anti. I used to be a Shadowhunters anti. I had negative interest in these books, this world, anything. But here I am saying that this is probably my favorite series ever. I don't know if it will ever change. And yeah, it has impacted me greatly, to say the absolute least. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed joining me on this journey. Let me know your thoughts on the last hours on this book in particular. I hope that we can have some great positive discussion in the comments. And yeah, thank you for watching. See you next time.